gonna shine a light. We gonna shine it bright. We will trust in the Lord and the power of His might. We are the Israelite.
Sold on the slave markets in Libya today. What is Sierra Leone doing about it? What is Ghana doing about it? What is Zimbabwe doing about it? What is Benin doing about it? What is Nigeria doing about it? They don't have the power to go over there and fight those Arabs. America and Britain won't even allow them to manufacture their own weapons on their own continent. They have to get permission to do that. And the two countries, I believe it was Burkina Faso, I might be wrong, Burkina Faso and Ghana, they have the authority to do that, but they're not doing it. They're not producing their own weapons. Why? Because we are still in captivity where we have to rely on the other nations. Okay, read that last part again.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand.
Come on, verse 33.
Verse 33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt be oppressed and crushed always.
That is one word that defines that whole verse right there. What is it? Starts with a C. Ephraim. That was the wrong word. Don't call out. He said crush. You thinking about Marvel, X-Men or something? All right. Come on. What is one word? Read it again for him. Read it again for Ephraim. Come on.
And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
It's oppressed, right?
Nah. Read the whole verse, brother.
33, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Starts with a C. Do you know the answer?
No, no, sir.
Pass it to the brother next to you. It starts with a C.
Crush. Can't say it right.
Didn't I just say no? He just said that.
Oh, my man.
Man, y'all thinking about Marvel superheroes, man. Come on.
Colonialism.
Very good. Repeat it again for them.
Colonialism.
Thank you. That he go to Camp 101? All right, all praises, man. Y'all make sure y'all go to Camp 101, man. Talking about crushed. All right, read it again.
The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always.
Now get me verse 33. Come on.
Verse 33 again.
I'm sorry, not verse 33. Verse 37.
37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee. Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field.
All right, stop right there. Now, all of these countries that are oppressing our people, like the brother just mentioned, right? Or the countries that we mentioned before, all right? When we mentioned Britain, French, Spanish, Dutch, Russian, we're going to run right through it real quick. Let's start with Greece. We're going to talk about the 6 heads, the 7 heads. Let's talk about the 7 heads first, okay? Because a lot of times when we read Deuteronomy 28, we're reading it through the eyes of the oppressed. So what I want you to do is read it through the eyes of the oppressor. And when you finish reading it through the eyes of the oppressor, you'll see that through the process of elimination, the only nation on the planet Earth who fits these things are Esau. Okay, when you read verse 33, 37, 41, 44, 48, 49, 50, and 51, it's all Edomites. Okay? Get me verse, you read verse 37 already, right?
Yes, sir.
Get me verse 41.
41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Now, when we often break this down, what we do is we say, well, our sons and our daughters was taken into captivity, which is absolutely true, right? Now let's read it through the oppressor's eyes. What nation ever took any sons and daughters into captivity? We're talking about this time, this era. 1453 and up. What nation? Huh? Edom. It's not the Chinese. It's not the Africans. It's Edom. A majority, the majority is Esau. You might have Ishmael in there, of course, with the sub-Saharan slave trade and all that. But Esau makes up the majority. Read it again.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Read verse 44.
44. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
All nations is serving Esau right now. He's lending to people, and people are not lending to him. Okay, and I don't want to hear about the deficit. The deficit is going up every day. U.S. owes China money. Yeah, right. Y'all believe that all y'all want. America could drop bombs on China if they wanted to. Okay, that's why they have sanctions on them right now as we speak. Okay, how you gonna owe money to people and then hit them with a sanction? That don't make any sense. Okay, give me verse 48.
Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee.
And we're going to read about the nations that did that. Come on.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth.
So all of these nations that we mentioned, the 7 heads, they all have what as their emblem? The eagle. Okay, you can Google that. That's information we could find out. Okay, we're living in a time of free information. All you got to do is just go on a computer and look it up. Research. Do your research and make sure it matches up with the Bible, of course. All right, read that part again.
The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
Okay, when Spain came up against us, we didn't know Spanish. Portuguese came up against us, we didn't know Portuguese, right? When the German came up against us, we didn't know German, we didn't know Dutch, we didn't know French, we didn't know these languages. They were all foreign languages to us. Read verse 50.
Verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor shew favor to the young.
And we're going to go over that, okay? Read verse 51.
51. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed.
Brother Robert, this is for you. Come on.
Which also shall not leave thee either corn,
like you said. Come on.
wine,
Like you mentioned. Come
or
on.
oil.
Or oil. Oil, very important word. It's going to come up again in the class. Oil.
And I'd ring it, and I'd take the oil. And I said, I'll take the oil.
Well, I'm not looking to quagmire. I'm looking to take the oil. I want to take the oil. I want the oil. And I've been saying that for a long time.
Take the oil. If we would have taken the oil, I would take the oil. You heard me. I would take the oil. Why don't we just take over the oil? We should take it over. We should be running the oil. You know, a few very smart people said, oh, that war is really smart because we're going to take over the oil. You know, in the old days, you'd have a war, and you'd win the war. And to the victor belong the spoils. You know that. Bomb the oil, take the oil. 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 Just take it, right?
And I've been saying it for a long time.
Libya, if we take the oil. If we don't take the oil, no interest. And if that's going to happen, we take the oil. I'm talking about oil. You take the oil. You take the oil. You take the oil. Tell you what, I'm only interested in Libya if we take the oil. If we don't take the oil, I have no interest. So in the old days, you know, when you had a war, to the victor belonged the spoils. You go in, you win the war, and you take it. I do one thing. Either I go in and take the oil, or I don't go in at all. Absolutely. I'd take the oil, I'd give them plenty so they can live very happily. I would take the oil. In the old days, when you have a war, and you win, that nation's yours.
Libya, who's going to take over the oil? So what do we get out of it, and why don't we take the oil? If you're successful, we get half of your oil, because they're going to take the oil.
We should have kept the oil over and over and over again. Keep the oil, keep the oil. If we had controlled the oil, like I said we should, necessary to safeguard the oil, necessary for us to have the oil. Hey, I assume we're taking the oil. Take the oil, at least. Oh, Trump is a horrible human being. He wants to take the oil.
oil, one of the most precious commodities. Okay? Not only gold, but oiled. All right? You have gold, now you have oil. Come on, read.
Or the increase of thine kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed
Because
thee.
this man wants everything. He has a great appetite for destruction, a great appetite to control all of the world's resources and have all dark nations, mainly the Israelites, under his subjection. Okay? That's the one nation he could never let rise up. Because once Israel rises up, we're taking over the whole planet for eternity. Okay? Now, get me First Maccabees. So first on the list was Greece. The first head was Greece, right? When did Greece come into power? And where can I read about it? Soldiers F9. Okay. Okay, where else? Let's say you come across a pseudo apologetic pathetic that says they don't believe it, the Apocrypha is not canon. Where else can you read about the Greek captivity besides Maccabees?
In the book of Daniel, the 8th chapter and the 11th chapter, he prophesies of the beast like you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
The leopard was the leopard and the goat was talking about Alexander.
All right, very good. Give me First Maccabees. Let's start with Maccabees first. Okay, we're gonna run through this because it's a lot. All right, make sure y'all write this down. Greece is the first head. Let's find out about the oppressions thereof. All right, First Maccabees chapter 1 and you're gonna read verse 1 through 5, and then you're gonna jump to 9.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
So when he killed Darius the Mede and took over, guess what? He took all his spoils. Everything that Darius conquered and the Persians and the Medes were able to conquer, all of those spoils became Alexander's spoils. All of those lands that Persian and Mede had, all of those lands became for Alexander. Okay? Read.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him.
And no nations could rise up against Alexander. He was a great, fierce warrior. Yeah, he was gay. He was a homo, but he was a tough homo. All right? Come on.
Whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him.
Because he was in rulership. All right? So they would pay him toll. All right? He was able to find them. He was able to what? Like Trump is doing today. He was able to put sanctions on them. Okay? Come on.
And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die.
Come on.
Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth.
They went to school with him and been brought up with him. Come on.
And parted his kingdom among them.
Who is the youth and the servants that he parted his kingdom amongst? And give me a country that they ruled too. At least one. Soldier Yaqub.
Okay. Ptolemy, which ruled in the land of Ham or Africa.
Okay, Ptolemy ruled Egypt.
Egypt.
Okay. Now, which Ptolemy?
I don't know which.
Because there were many Ptolemies. That was a title, just like Kaiser or Khazar.
Yes, sir. I'm not sure which Ptolemy.
Ptolemy the first Soter.
Ptolemy
Write that down, brothers. All right. So when the Feast of Dedication comes around, we go over this. You're not confused. Ptolemy the first Soter. Soter. Also another meaning for the word savior. Okay. He controlled Egypt.
Egypt.
Who's next on the list?
Next would have been Seleucus.
Okay.
Seleucus. Seleucus covered The areas that we would know now as Asia Minor, or just north of Israel.
You have Babylonia.
Is
Babylonia and certain Persian Median
okay.
lands.
Okay.
Seleucus controlled.
Seleucus.
Give me another, his other people, his other servants.
I can't remember the other two. There's two more, but
Somebody help him. Officer Mike Judah.
Mike check. Yeah, Ptolemy had Egypt. Seleucus had Syria. Cassander had Macedonia. Lysimachus had Thrace. That's Asia Minor.
Okay. Thrace, Asia Minor, Lysimachus. Seleucus also had Babylonia as well. You could write that down. All right. He had Syria and Babylonia. All right. Cassander had Greece and Macedonia. Lysimachus had Thrace, Asia Minor. Absolutely. Okay. Back to Maccabees.
First Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them, while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then died.
How did he die, brothers? Syphilis. He was a homosexual. Okay, and the Most High gave him syphilis. That was his judgment. Come on.
And his servants bear rule, every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils.
And what?
And evils.
And evil
were multiplied in the earth.
Okay, that's the beginning of the first head of the 7 heads. The Most High said that evils was multiplied in the earth when Esau came into power. Okay, that's what the Bible says. All right? Get me Daniel. Give me the book of Daniel. Let's read it real quick. Put this down in your arsenal. Daniel, the 7th chapter. Give me Daniel 7. Read verse 6. Let me hear it.
Daniel chapter 7 and verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. And after this...
Officer Mattathias, explain that. Don't let the wording confuse you. Remember, it was a parable. It was a similitude. It was a dream shown unto Daniel. However, we just explained it in Maccabees. The explanation was given in Maccabees. Daniel 7, verse 6. Read it again for him.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
It's just basically talking about the generals of Alexander.
Which part?
The 4 heads.
It says 4 heads there. Read it.
Yeah.
Does it say 4 heads in verse 6? Use the word.
Oh, my bad.
It says 4 wings, and then after that it says 4 heads. 4 wings of a fowl, and then 4 heads. And dominion was given unto those 4 heads. Those generals that we read about, like you said in Maccabees.
Yes.
Okay. Now stay right there. Give me Daniel 8, 5-9.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
What's that notable horn? Remember, horn represents what? Power and kingship, right? What was that horn between the eyes of the goat, of the he-goat?
I don't know.
You know. It represented, okay, what head are we talking about?
To my Greece.
So the horn represents what?
Greece.
The horn represents what?
Power.
And what else? King. A king. King.
Alexander.
Exactly. Read it again for him.
And as I was considering, behold, An he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes.
So that was Alexander the Great, right? Read on.
And he became
And he came.
And he came to the ram that had two horns.
And the ram that had two horns were the Medo-Persian Empire, later known as the Persian Mede Empire. Okay, the two horns on the ram was a dual empire, Persian and Mede. Okay, come on.
Which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against
That means
it.
great hatred. Why? Because Alexander the Great was known for hating other dark nations. This is an Edomite we're reading about. Okay? Esau don't like to see people of dark complexion in power. Okay? Come on.
And smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
So he destroyed the Medo-Persian Empire. Come on.
Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great.
What is that talking about? The he-goat waxing very great. Hold that.
He grew strong.
Huh?
He grew strong.
He grew strong. All right, get me that. Hold that. Hold that. No, you hold that. You go to First Maccabees. I want you to find it. I want you to be able to make the connection. I need your spiritual eyes to be open, brothers. Y'all should be able to make the connection easy. First Maccabees. Verse 3. I want you to find that in verse 3. Actually, start at verse 2.
In chapter 1.
Yeah, I want him to read it. You read it.
And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the end of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him.
And so much that the what?
The earth was quiet before him.
Now go back to Daniel. Daniel 8 and 8.
Therefore...
No, this brother.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 8. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong...
Stop. Go back to Maccabees. The same part you just read.
And went through the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up.
You see the connection? Yes. All right. Okay. Go back to Daniel.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 8. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
What's the 4 notable ones, Officer Mattathias?
The 4 noble ones is Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lacomaeus, and Cassandra.
Okay. Come on, read.
And out of one of them came forth a little horn.
And out of one of them, out of one of them came forth a little horn. Who's the one of them, and what is the little horn?
The little horn is Antioch.
Who's the one of them?
Out of one of the 4 generals.
Which one of them?
Cassandra.
No. Brother in the back with the beard, with the white beard. That look like Christ. Yeah, you. Give him the mic. Pass him the mic. Let's go. Stand up. He look brand new. It says, how long you been with us, brother?
Over 6 months.
All right, I'll give you a shot. It says, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. Who's the one of them?
Let's see. Hold on.
It's talking about the 4 generals, right? Which one of them?
Macamicius, am I saying it right?
You said who?
Macamecius.
No. Pass it to the brother behind you with the glasses. Yes, you. What's his name? What's your name, brother?
Gamaliel.
Gamaliel. All right.
I have no idea, sir.
Soldier Zephaniah. Just exalt your voice. Exalt loud so I can hear you. Seleucus was the one of them. Who came out of Seleucus? Who was the little horn? Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. And what does Epiphanes mean? God manifested on earth. Very good. Go back to Daniel.
Daniel chapter 8, verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land.
What's the pleasant land, brothers? Israel. So Antiochus, or some people might pronounce it Antiochus, all right, Epiphanes, he magnified himself as God on earth, okay? And he wanted to Hellenize all Jewry. He wanted all the Israelites to be Hellenized, okay? He wanted us to pay tributes unto him, and he wanted to Hellenize us. Okay? Now that's with Greece. Now let's go to the second red head. Let's go to Rome. Let's go to Rome. Get me 1 Maccabees. First Maccabees. Chapter 8 and verse 1. 1 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 1.
1 Maccabees chapter 8 and verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans.
So what were the Romans? The Romans were who? We're still talking about Esau. They were Edomites, right? Okay, remember it was called, they joined in with whom? It was a joint with who? Joint or it was dissolved one into another. With who? The Greeks. That's why it's called the Greco-Roman Empire. Okay, read.
That they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them, and that they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts.
Because they were trying to expand their empire. So what they were looking for? What were they looking for? Allies. The same thing. The same thing going on back then, brothers and sisters, is the same thing going on now with Esau. All right? He's looking for allies. Allies. Come on.
Which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute.
See, and brought them under tribute. Jump to verse 21. We're still talking about Rome. Esau, Idumea, Edom. Come on.
Verse 21. So the matter pleased the Romans well.
So the matter pleased the Romans well. What Judas Maccabeus with his brethren was trying to do. They were trying to establish a confederacy and peace with Rome. All right? Especially to fight against the Greeks. Come on.
And this is the copy of the epistle which the Senate wrote back again in tables of brass and sent to Jerusalem, that there might have by them a memorial of peace and confederacy.
Come on.
Good success be to the Romans and to the people of the Jews, by sea and by land forever. The sword also an enemy by far from them.
No, read it again. Read it again. Come on, take your time. Read it clearly.
The sword also an enemy be far from them.
The sword also and enemy be far from them. Why? Because they were going to protect us. They were going to protect us, but it would obviously it would come at certain demands, and it would only be for a dispensation of time. Just like when Esau came over here on this side and they had all them peace treaties with Gad. They broke every single peace treaty that they had with Gad. Okay? The same thing that the Romans would later do during the time of 70 AD, because they are the ones who besieged Jerusalem. The same man that said, we're going to have peace with you, we're going to protect you. Years later, guess what? They besieged Jerusalem and put great slaughter unto the Israelites. It was the Romans that did that. Come on.
if there come first any war upon the Romans or any of their confederates throughout all their dominion, the people of the Jews shall help them, as the time shall be appointed, with all their heart. Neither shall they give anything unto them that make war upon them, or aid them with victuals, weapons, money, or ships, as it hath seemed good unto the Romans. But they shall keep their covenants without taking anything therefore.
So they had to abide by their policy. That's the mark that we read about. They had to take the mark. That was the mark. Okay, they had to abide by Romans' policies. Come on.
In the same manner also, if war come first upon the nation of the Jews, the Romans shall help them with all their heart, according as the time shall be appointed them. Neither shall victuals be given to them that take part against them.
Sanctions.
Or weapons, or money, or ships, as it hath seemed good to the Romans. But they shall keep their covenants, and that without deceit.
That's a lie. They're very deceitful. Come on.
According to these articles did the Romans make a covenant with the people of the Jews.
Okay. So get me Matthew 11 and verse 12.
Matthew 11 and verse 12.
Now, because of these articles of confederacy or confederation that our forefathers Judas Maccabeus wanted to establish from help from the Romans were able to establish sovereignty and control over the land of Israel. Although we had people in place, certain Pharisees, scribes in place, they were able to establish puppet masters and leaders. You had the Herodians, you had Herod, and then you had Caesar and then everybody else. Rome was still in control of Israel. All right, let's read that. Did I say Matthew?
Yeah,
Matthew 11, verse 12.
Matthew 11 and verse 12. And from the days of John the Baptist until now.
Who was John the Baptist, brothers? Just quickly. Christ's cousin, okay. All right, and who was ruling during his time period? Rome was ruling. Come on.
And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence.
The Israelites suffered violence.
And the violent take it by force.
And the violent take it by force. Took what by force? The kingdom of heaven. Control of the Israelites. That's making reference to Rome and all the puppet leaders that it had set up. Herod, who had John the Baptist beheaded, he was an Idumean set up by another group of Edomites, the Romans. Okay? So that's telling you that the kingdom of heaven is only pertaining to us. Okay? The kingdom of heaven is only Israel in rulership. All right? Get me John 11 and verse 48.
The book of John, chapter 11 and verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him.
That was making reference to Christ. Come on.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
How were the Romans able to do that? To come over there and take away the place of the Pharisees and scribes and so forth. Because they had power. They were in rulership. Okay? Now when you bring it up to this time, okay, when they colonized Africa, did Rome play a part in colonizing Africa? Now it's known, you could call it Italy. The Italians. Did they colonize Africa? Huh? Yes, no, maybe. Yes. All right. You have Libya. Write it down. Libya, 1911, was given unto Rome. Eritrea, Eritrea, 1914, given unto Rome. Ethiopia, from 1935 to 1939. Okay? They defeated and annexed and subjected Ethiopia unto Roman military occupation around a period from 1935 to 1939. That was the second war that Mussolini had with Ethiopia, mainly Haile Selassie. Okay? Now let's go to the third head. Let's go to the third head. Spain.
Shalom. This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us. Subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcast, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www.israelunite.org.